So a Washington Post columnist who was fired for having an offensive opinion has been rehired because of a court decision. What in the world happened? Anna, you've got the story.
Yes, so let's talk a little bit about this columnist at the center of the controversy. Her name is Karen Attiah, and she was an opinion columnist for the Washington Post, which is really, really important to keep in mind because there's a difference between a straight news reporter who's not supposed to share controversial opinions on social media. Oftentimes, there might be some deal or some work agreement that would allow it, but generally speaking, you do straight news reporting, you keep your opinions to yourself. In this case, we're talking about a columnist. Columnists share their opinions, okay? So that's important. Now, prior to her firing, she had been working for the paper's opinions department for 11 years. She was even an award-winning columnist. Back in 2019, she won the special George Polk Award along with her co-author or columnist David Ignatius for her coverage of the Jamal Khashoggi killing. So then September 10th, 2025 happens. That's the day that Charlie Kirk gets assassinated. And she made several posts on Blue Sky regarding political violence that apparently offended her employer so much that they decided to terminate her position with them. So I'm gonna give you a few examples. Here's one. For everyone saying political violence has no place in this country, remember 2 Democratic legislators were shot in Minnesota just this year, and America shrugged and moved on. So there were political assassinations in Minnesota. Melissa Hortman, her husband and her dog were killed. And so I don't think there's anything wrong with pointing that out. And then she also said, part of what keeps America so violent is the insistence that people perform care, empty goodness, and absolution for white men who espouse hatred and violence. And I'm guessing that second post is what led to the Washington Post deciding to let her go. Now later in a Substack post, she claimed that these threads that she posted on Blue Sky were not about Kirk.
No, come on.
Like that's where she's 100% in the wrong. Like just own it. You did post it. It was about Kirk. But she's saying that she's trying to draw attention to these political assassinations and how they didn't get the type of attention that they deserved. And I think that's a fair point to make about the political assassinations. But just own up to what you're actually posting about here. She only directly referenced Charlie Kirk once in the following post I'm gonna read to you. She says, she quoted him specifically and said, black women do not have the brain processing power to be taken seriously. You have to go steal a white person's slot. That was a quote that Charlie Kirk had said. Okay. Following her termination from the Washington Post, she posted an update pointing out that Kirk was referencing specific black women and not all black women. Here's what she said. Hey everyone, in the heat of things, I originally saw this quote in a piece in The Nation, and their quote has since been updated to specify that it was specific to Joy Reid, Michelle Obama, etc. But Kirk's clearly anti-black statements speak for themselves, and then she provides a link. Now, the Washington Post did fire her, calling her Blue Sky posts unacceptable, gross misconduct, and endangering to the physical safety of her colleagues, which I think is ridiculous, okay? You might not agree with her, you might totally disagree with her analysis of the situation and political violence in the country, but at the end of the day, she's not putting anyone's life in danger at the Washington Post. I do think that's ridiculous. Now, at the time of her termination, she claimed that she was the last remaining black full-time opinion columnist at the Post. A month after her filing, though, she decides to challenge the fact that she was terminated. She filed a grievance with Human Resources claiming that the Post violated her labor agreement. So she has a contract with the Washington Post, and at this point, an arbitrator comes in to arbitrate and decide whether or not the Washington Post violated her labor agreement. And it turns out, yeah, she did. They did. So in a 4-page letter to the Washington Post, Attiah had argued that her posts were well-supported opinions within her scope of being an opinion writer. Hey guys, you might wholeheartedly disagree with her opinion, but at the end of the day, she's an opinion writer. That's what she was hired for. Arbitrator basically said, okay, the Washington Post did violate her labor contract, and they are ordered to immediately rehire her and give her back pay. Cenk, your thoughts?
Yeah, so I think a lot of you know that we had a very different reaction to Charlie Kirk being killed. We were horrified by it, and I'm still horrified by it. And what I would love is justice for who actually did it. That would be very, very important for the country. And so now Charlie Kirk was a complicated person, and did he from time to time say things that we consider hateful? Yes, I don't think that's in question. You can say no, his comments about black people and not trusting black pilots and saying that Islam is putting a sword to the neck of America is not hateful. Okay, that's fine. That's a disagreement, okay? And I'm not the guy to be like, oh my God, that's Islamophobic. I'm so verklempt over it. Okay, whatever. But to say that he didn't say anything controversial is absurd. Of course he did, right? So at the same time, he was open to the other side, and he would have discussions, and he would from time to time agree. And he had a very important agreement with us against the Iran war right before he was assassinated by someone or some entity. And so, but all of that at the end of the day is immaterial. So I don't like what she posted. I don't like that right after someone is murdered in a political assassination, you start to talk about how he was a bad guy. I get it. Like there's some situations like Dick Cheney and Lindsey Graham where everybody's got a right to say, and they weren't assassinated. They had a natural death, and then everybody's kissing their ass, and you go, no, I don't want to kiss their ass. Okay, I'm not interested in that, right? But is this young guy with a family gets murdered in front of our eyes, right? Yeah. So it's not the right place to do it, in my opinion, and we proved it by having a completely different reaction. And I don't like to talk of white men this and white men that. And you can say, well, I mean, he said about black women. I know, but are we gonna constantly do this forever? And put each other in different categories. You're the white man, you're the black women, and we should all be separate. How about we try being Americans? And we lead by example. If you don't want him to say black women, maybe you don't say white men, right?
Are we gonna also pretend that white men who carry out acts of political violence suffer no consequences? I mean,
yeah, they do get arrested.
Dylan Roof is a good example. Yeah, it's not like we let them go and we forget about what they did.
It's not like they're Israelis. Israelis we let go. They're allowed to commit any crime. We can murder Americans, honestly, the sexual tourism, the rape of our children, and literally no punishments almost ever. And so if you want, you can watch other Young Turks clips. We're not making that up. That is empirical stories we've shared with you. There's no question about it. 10 Americans murdered in Israel, and no one's even been arrested. Okay, so no one's Israeli here. We all have to actually be equal before the law to the best of the system's abilities. But now, the most important parts, guys, even if you hated what she said, there's two other issues here that are pertinent. One is freedom of speech. You don't get to have freedom of speech about only things you like. If you did, that'd be a pointless right. No, freedom of speech is for things that are unpopular and things that people don't like, because no one wants to ban popular speech. No one's like, oh, puppies and kids are sweet. Oh, you gotta ban that. No, they ban it when you criticize Israel, and everybody in government hates that and they wanna ban it, right? You criticize black women or white men or whatever it is. Don't ever give away freedom of speech, no matter how much you hated what somebody said. Now, number two, the most pertinent part in this particular case is there's a legal contract that binds what the Washington Post can do. And the mediator said, no, Washington Post is in violation of that contract. They cannot fire an opinion columnist for stating her opinion. So we're done with it, that's it. Whether you like what she said or not, they're in violation of the contract, and that's called capitalism. Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.